Welcome to the Deliberate Exchange. This is Chelsea. So I've been thinking about that saying, you can't pour from an empty cup. And you certainly can't pour from that empty cup, not when it's filled with Baileys at 10 o'clock in the morning. Christmas, when I was working in the industry, always looked like big bottles of Baileys and Timmy's takeaway coffees in the morning at work. And Christmas morning was always a really great excuse to pop the champagne early and have mimosas. And of course, it meant the dreaded Christmas parties, often depicted in the movies as a bit of a train wreck with too much booze. Now, in real life and with myself, it was no different. Now, I love Christmas. I love the lights. I love the festive cheer, but it was always synonymous with boozy good times. I know people who would actually take October off of drinking so that they could prep for November and December in the industry and all the events that entailed. And there's a couple of notable Christmas parties in my past. There was one where I was found in the boardroom, sparkly red high heel shoes up on the boardroom table, and I was fast asleep. My boss had found me as he was shutting down the office for the night after we had had our Christmas party there. I had clearly indulged too much and was exhausted from everything else in my life and decided that I needed a little nap. So there I was in the boardroom, napping. Another Christmas party, I seem to recall that I was the obnoxious one with one of those air horn app buttons on my phone, and I kept pressing it during my boss's speech. Or another time when my friend Steve and Fiona drove me home from the Christmas party, and I'm in the back seat trying to direct them to my place. Now, at the time, I happened to live on a street called Foch, F-O-C-H. And I was trying to tell them that, but I also had the hiccups. And they thought I was just swearing every time I had a hiccup instead of actually saying that I was living on Foch. And when I think about these times and others, I of course get these little tiny pangs of shame. But I also think that shame is a very important indicator of growth. It means that those behaviors aren't congruent with who you are now. And it's part of my experience, but it still feels dreadful sometimes. And I know that I'm not alone. I'm sure if you're listening here, you might have woken up after a holiday event and thought, what the hell was I doing? Where's my purse? Where's my phone? Etc. This time of year is also hard for a number of other reasons. It's even worse for anyone who struggles with boundaries, self-worth, self-control, emotional regulation, loneliness, grief, or of course, struggle with substances like alcohol. There's so much pressure to go everywhere, to do all the things. There's this compulsion to eat all the good treats and to drink all the booze. Like, I was one of those girls who had the t-shirts that says like, the tree isn't the only thing getting this year. Or like, oh, my home is filled with red and white, and you mean wine. For anyone who's also experienced loss at this time of year, it's either a very stark reminder of who you're missing, or it's a year of firsts without them. For those who are single, this time of year highlights just how alone you are. No one to wake up with on Christmas Day, or to watch Christmas movies with, or to buy Christmas presents for, and no kisses at New Year's. Or you're stuck in situationships with people who aren't going to make all your Christmas wishes come true, and yet clinging to the false hope that they will come through. All of this means we're often overcommitted and out of energy before Christmas even hits. Having experienced a few Christmases where I was in the depths of loneliness, depression, anxiety, and drinking too much, I'm sending so much love to anyone who's feeling this way. I worked my ass off to get to the other side of this, and I'm proud of myself for turning things around. And I know that it's possible for you too, but it was work to get there. Now, the alcohol I was drinking was fueled not only by the holiday spirit, but layers of depression, anxiety, and exhaustion, as well as wanting to push stop on the big feelings that I had that I didn't know what to do with, like grief or loneliness, anger, etc. What I learned through my therapist that I was working with at the time before I quit drinking, and especially in my social and emotional dependence with alcohol, was that the excessive alcohol consumption combined with exhaustion, depression, and anxiety was creating a vicious cycle that was impacting my brain and my body. It was leading to frequent blackouts and total emotional instability. Alcohol was depleting serotonin and dopamine, which are responsible for regulating mood, and that left me feeling way more anxious and way more depressed. And she had also taught me that it's disrupting the prefrontal cortex, and that's in charge of emotional regulation and decision making. So no wonder I had mood swings and really poor impulse control. All of this left my brain overwhelmed and unable to process emotions or maintain any semblance of balance. And that was creating this perfect storm of instability that made everything so much worse. Now, putting the alcohol piece aside for a second, there's also so much societal and family pressure this time of year. We're overextending ourselves, hosting, gift giving, showing up at every event, and of course the unspoken norm that alcohol equals fun. I know that in talking with my clients that they're under so much pressure. You got to find the right gift, but don't spend too much, but don't spend too little. And be sure to make it to every family dinner and family event. I would watch as my niece get carted around when she was a baby to like 3 or 4 different homes on Christmas Day. And she would come home asleep or cranky from exhaustion and overstimulation because they felt like they had to go see everyone on that particular day. And then there's the painstaking pressure of making sure you spend equal time with each family set or switch years. You know, one year mom gets Christmas Day, the next year dad gets it. The divorced kids listening will know what I'm talking about. And then again, the unspoken norm that Christmas plus alcohol equals fun. So it's not really at all surprising that people get into fights with their loved ones at Christmas. They end up with a cold or they're just plain exhausted. Like, this is supposed to be the happiest time of the year. Even Clark Griswold couldn't keep up with everything and keep everything together. If you've watched Christmas Vacation as much as I have, you're very familiar with his desperate rant towards the end of the movie. He says, we're going to press on and we're going to have the happiest Christmas since Bing Crosby tap danced with Danny fucking Kaye. And when Santa squeezes his fat white ass down the chimney tonight, he's going to find the jolliest bunch of assholes this side of the nut house. Right? And I think he says like, holy shit, where's the Tylenol? I'm like, that's not a Merry Christmas. Of course, the way the things were going for me, with the obligations, the desperation, the depression, the anxiety, and the booze-fueled Christmases, I was breaking into even smaller fragments than I had already felt. It was most definitely a sign of deeper struggles and healing that needed to be done. Something had to change. I was seeing my therapist, but more change was needed. So Christmas of 2019, that was the first Christmas without my stepdad who had passed. And you could imagine it was a very low Christmas to say the least. It was also my last Christmas with alcohol. I ended up quitting in January of 2020. And of course that meant that I still went through another lonely New Year's in a shitty situationship. But nothing, least of all me, changes if nothing changes. Quitting ended up paving the way for so much clarity, so much healing, and massive growth. And so when it came time for Christmas the next year, even though it was in the middle of the COVID pandemic, which had its own set of challenges, and even though I was still dealing with grief, I was in a much better place and more prepared. I was very firmly in a place of taking care of myself mentally, physically, emotionally. And that meant that I actually had more capacity to help, to be there for others, and to actually enjoy the truest meaning of Christmas. I worked in my little workshop at my mom's, creating all these handmade ornaments out of the hundreds of wine corks I had collected over the years, and then hand deliver them to our neighbors. And I really took in all the sparkly lights and all the Christmas songs. It was amazing. And I didn't do anything out of obligation. And I wasn't in any shit cycle. Now, 5 years later, Christmas is still wonderful. I'm not spending my time in malls worrying about what I'm going to buy for people. I know where and with who I'm going to be spending Christmas with, and I don't feel taxed by it. I know that my self-care rituals will not be derailed by late nights out or overindulging. Everything in my life will continue the same, except there'll be more quality gatherings. There'll be more marveling at sparkly lights, more singing in Christmas songs, much to my partner's dismay. He's really not a Christmas song guy. And there's a level of happiness and fulfillment that I couldn't have predicted having 5 years ago. I love my slow, sober Christmases so much now. Now, I know that you might still feel obligated to see all the people, do all the things, be all the things this Christmas. But I also want you to consider that if any of it or anyone is causing you heartache or stealing your peace, you can change it or say no. I want you to think about what Christmas could look like for you. Calm mornings, intentional gatherings, and the joy of being fully present. When you're not trying to actively fill your needs via external methods and you find a home within yourself, you can really find the peace and stillness and enjoy the holidays without substances or overextension. And so, as we approach Christmas, I will remind you of the following. No is a full and complete sentence. When it comes to events and people that you don't want to go to or spend time with, or things you don't want to drink or eat, you can say no. You can always look for the joy in connection rather than consumption. And I want to remind you to take care of yourself, to keep up with the things that you want to do in your life, and especially in your personal life, that takes care of you. If you are dreading the holiday season or wondering how the hell you're going to handle it differently this year, I want you to know this. You can rewrite your story. It's absolutely possible. You can just ask yourself, what would a slower, more deliberate Christmas look like? I'd love for you to share your holiday challenges or your triumphs by reaching out and commenting. I would love for you to check out my website, www.thedeliberateone.com. My partner says I don't have to say the 3 W's, but I feel compelled to, so that you can learn more about the services and offers that I have. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share if this episode was resonant for you. In the meantime, breathe it in, be deliberate, and please be good to yourself. Catch you on the next one.